Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at 3 of some of the best solo DPS builds in the Division 2 for Year 7 Season 2. So these setups will be utilizing the exotic Tinkerer mask while also offering some of the best playstyles, weapons, and gear pieces for each setup, okay? And there's a decent amount of survivability with some great damage as well. These builds have a crazy amount of damage on them and they're hella fun to play with. There's quite a bit to cover on these setups, and like always, I'll give you guys some alternative options just in case you may not have all the pieces. Thank you so much for being here, and without further ado, let's get started. Okay guys, so just imagine having the weapon talents, Killer, and Flatline on a single weapon, then pair that with Intimidate and Unstoppable Force. You get a powerhouse that deals out some pretty decent damage. I have another version of this build without Intimidate and Smart Cover that can be played more aggressively, but I actually really enjoy running this version with Intimidate, because with this version, there's a lot of burst damage. So if you use the Fortified Smart Cover, not only will you be getting immunity to stagger effects, but you will also be activating Intimidate, which gives you a huge damage boost. Intimidate is an amazing talent for adding burst damage to any build, but it requires bonus armor in order to activate, and the Fortified Smart Cover actually provides you with a decent amount. But I'm going to show you guys the other version, just in case taking cover isn't really your cup of tea, okay? So for the primary weapon, I'm running the SOCOM MK16, which I know isn't really meta, but as of late, it's been one of my favorite weapons. The base weapon damage on the MK16 is crazy high, even at a low expertise. And for the talent, I'm running Killer, which basically grants you 70% critical hit damage for 10 seconds after eliminating an enemy with a critical hit. And for the secondary weapon, I'm running the Carbine 7 with the talent Flatline. So with Flatline, it will amplify your agent's weapon damage by 15% to pulsed enemies. So it's for this reason that I went with the Technician weapon specialization, because it comes with the linked laser pointer attachment that goes on the underbarrel of your weapon, so you're going to want to use this attachment, okay? This will help you pulse enemies by simply aiming at them, so you get that 15% amped damage from Flatline, right? And for the mask, the exotic Tinkerer mask, which comes with the Alpha Bridge talent. So this mask basically allows you to have both the Killer and Flatline talents on either gun. However, this only applies if both your primary and secondary weapons are members of the same weapon type, and this excludes exotics and named weapons, as well as weapon swapping talents. And for the vest, a Gruppo vest with armor and crits, with the talent Intimidate. So for those who are new, this talent basically provides a really good damage boost while you have bonus armor active. You get 4% per stack, and the max stacks is 9. So that's about 30-something% added weapon damage in a very short period of time, right? Because you get a stack every second. And you also get a 13% added critical hit damage attribute from the one-piece Brandset bonus. For the holster, the named Picaro's holster, that comes with a 10% weapon damage attribute. And for the knee pads, Walker Harris for the 5% increased weapon damage with armor and crits. Then for the gloves, Fenris Group Gloves for the 10% AR damage bonus for having one piece, rolled with armor as my core attribute with crits. Then for the backpack, a Sheska bag for the 8% critical hit chance increase from the Brandset bonus, with weapon damage and critical hits for the minor attributes, with the talent Unstoppable Force. And for the skills, the Fortified Smart Cover, which grants bonus armor and immunity to help resist stagger effects. So this will also help activate that Intimidate talent, so you get that nice damage increase. Okay guys, so here's the second version. With this version, I swapped out Intimidate for Obliterate, so you don't have to worry about having bonus armor to get that damage bonus. And having the Ballistic Shield makes it easier for you to rush and play more aggressive if that's more of your preferred playstyle. This version won't deal out as much damage because you only get a 20% increased damage boost with Obliterate at full stacks, whereas with Intimidate you get about 36%, but it's still a great alternative if playing cover isn't your cup of tea. And for the seasonal modifiers, I recommend Assault Link for the active. With Assault Link, you're getting a really nice damage increase that will last for 25 seconds, and the cooldown is only 1 minute. Then I went with Loaded Up, the best kind of defense, and Multitasker for the passives. Okay, so if you need something with more damage, then this next setup might spark your interest. This is a 4-piece ongoing directive build pairing both the Sadist and Killer talents using the Tinkerer mask. Ongoing Directive in itself is a very powerful gear set, mainly because it grants a great amount of amplified damage. Not to mention, you also get hollow point rounds that apply bleed to a target, dealing damage over time. There are so many different ways to run Ongoing Directive, but I'm currently running it with the vest, so I get the Parabellum Rounds talent that grants up to 50% amplified weapon damage. And thanks to the Tinkerer mask, I'm able to pair both Sadist and Killer on my primary weapon, so I get an additional 30% amplified weapon damage with a nice critical hit damage increase. So at the moment, I'm running the Black Market AKM and Police M4, but any AKM will work fine. The AKM models generally have a crazy high base damage, however the RPM is on the lower side. So this is why I chose to go with the Police M4 as my secondary weapon, since it has a much higher RPM. And for the weapon talents, Sadist, which amps weapon damage by 30% to bleeding enemies, then Killer, which grants up to 70% critical hit damage after eliminating an enemy with a critical hit. And for the gear pieces, the Tinkerer mask with a critical hit damage mod. This mask will always drop with weapon damage and both crits. Then for the vest, an ongoing chest piece with armor and crits. And for the holster, weapon damage and critical hit damage. Then for the knee pads, armor with critical hit chance. And for the gloves, armor and critical hit damage. Last but not least is the Named Anarchist's cookbook bag. This is basically a named Golan backpack, so you get a 10% status effects attribute from the set bonus, as well as the talent Perfectly Wicked. So applying a status effect to a target will increase your weapon damage by 18% for 27 seconds. This name bag is optional though, so if you don't have this bag, then you can either get a normal Bellstone bag and roll the Wicked talent on it if you really care about having that 10% status effects attribute. But honestly, if I were you, I'd go with either Cheska, Grupo, or Walker Harris instead and just recalibrate Wicked on it. With the normal Wicked talent, you still get 18% increased weapon damage. However, you get it for 20 seconds as opposed to 27 seconds on the Perfect. So it's not a big difference. And for the skills, I'm running the Fortified Smart Cover, which is optional. However, for your secondary skill, I recommend running Gunner so you have that Banshee Pulse. And so with the Banshee Pulse, it's going to be a big help getting that initial status effect on a target, so you can get the Rules of Engagement talent on the ongoing set activated. So what you want to do is use the Banshee Pulse to apply the Disorient status effect to a target. Doing this will not only activate the Wicked talent, but when you eliminate that disoriented target, you get granted hollow point ammo for your active weapon. And this is where the real damage can happen. The hollow point ammo applies bleed to enemies, but it will also amplify your weapon damage by 20%. And if you have the ongoing vest equipped, you get the Parabellum Rounds talent that bumps it to 50%. For the stats, 55% critical hit chance and 125% critical hit damage on both the AKM and Police M4. And for the seasonal modifiers, the same as the previous setup, so Assault Link for the active, loaded up the best kind of defense, and multitasker for the passives. Okay guys, so this last setup harnesses the power of the Heartbreaker gear set. Heartbreaker is another powerful gear set, and if you have the chest piece equipped, you can get over 100% added weapon damage at full stacks. Plus, you also get a ton of bonus armor. However, one major downside of Heartbreaker is that you'll need to build stacks, and unlike Striker, you can only build Heartstopper stacks on pulsed enemies. You can normally build up Heartstopper stacks quickly if you have the ACS-12 shotgun, but in this case, since I'm using the Tinkerer mask, that's obviously not an option, right? However, having the linked laser pointer from the Technician weapon specialization makes it easier. Remember, the linked laser pointer is an attachment that you can access from the Technician weapons specialization tree. And since you can only build Heartstopper stacks on pulsed enemies, it helps. So I basically paired both Flatline and Killer. Flatline goes great with Heartbreaker because you'll need to pulse an enemy to activate it, and you can only build stacks on pulsed enemies. Plus, Killer grants a decent amount of critical hit damage, and since Heartbreaker doesn't provide any crit bonuses whatsoever, That 70% you're getting from killer helps a lot. But if you're trying to decide what weapon to use, I honestly recommend using a weapon with a high RPM. So either the Carbine 7, Police M4, or maybe even the Honey Badger if you have one. Having a higher RPM weapon will help you build those Heartbreaker stacks quickly. Then for the gear pieces, as far as the mods, critical hit chance on the mask, and for the vest and backpack, critical hit damage mods. So for the minor attributes on your gear pieces, you want to focus on critical hit chance or critical hit damage. This is going to help you deal out more damage, but just remember that the critical hit chance cap is set to 60%. So ideally you want to be anywhere between 45 to 60%. Then once you've reached that range, you can just focus on getting more critical hit damage. I wouldn't go lower than 45%, especially with killer, because with killer, remember, you need to kill an enemy with a critical hit in order to get that 70% critical hit damage increase, right? So going lower than 45% critical hit chance is like shooting yourself in the foot. But for the skills, I went with the Ballistic Crusader Shield. This is the variant that allows you to use ARs with it, so it really helps. But I know some of you aren't really a fan of the Crusader Shield, so you're welcome to go with whatever suits your playstyle here. There really isn't any mandatory skill requirement with this setup, so again, go with whatever skill you desire to use. However, if you intend to play solo with this setup, then I recommend going with a Reviver Hive at the very least, especially if you're running anything heroic or higher. This will save you from the frustration of having to restart a mission mid-run if you go down. And as far as the weapons, you have a lot of options like the FAL, AKM, Police M4, or even the TKB if you have one. The TKB can be crafted and it's basically the Kingbreaker AR, but again, just make sure you're not using a named weapon like the Lexington or the Tinkerer mask won't have any effect. I've made this mistake before. What you can also do is have one high and one low RPM weapon. That way you can swap between the two if RPM ever becomes an issue. And for the seasonal modifiers, Assault Link for the active, then for the passives, loaded up the best kind of defense and multitasker. So again, guys, Assault Link is extremely viable and it only has a 1-minute cooldown so you can use it quite often. This is Prajna. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and if you made it to the end of the video, you truly are an amazing person. Like, in this day and age, a lot of people have a crazy short attention span, so I really appreciate you guys for making it to the end. So, I love you guys. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions, leave them down for me in the comment section. Also, if anyone's interested, you're welcome to join my Discord server. You know, if you need help with building groups for raids, the incursion, or whatever it may be, a link will be in the description. You guys already know the vibes. Keep it cool, keep it classy, and see you in the next video. Bye!